This is the OM1 Mark II, and this camera has made me question why Canon and Sony aren't putting some of the same features that's in this camera into their pro level bodies that cost $5,000–6,000. This is the most surprising camera I've used so far this year, and paired with their 150 to 400mm lens, it might be the best wildlife setup I've ever used for under $10,000. Now, in full disclosure, OM did send this camera to me on loan. I have to send everything back. They're not paying me, they're not sponsoring this video, they don't reimburse me for anything I do in this video, but they just hit me up and said, you want to try this camera out? Now, right off the bat, I'm going to say this. This is a photography first camera. This is not a hybrid. I mean, it is a hybrid camera, but it's not a both video and photo camera that will do both equally as well. That being said, this thing does have some really impressive video capabilities, which we'll jump into in just a little bit. But the photography capabilities of this camera are really where it's at. Now, I went into this video not really knowing, never having used OM system cameras before, not really knowing much about them. And the first thing that turned me off was that it's micro four thirds. You might think micro four thirds, I can't do that. I've got to have a APS-C full frame or something like that. But micro four thirds actually does have a few advantages over APS-C and full frame. And we'll get into some of those in just a bit. But one of them is that it can be much smaller, much lighter. It's way easier to put stabilization in the body with, and the stabilization in this camera is kind of shockingly good. But one of the biggest advantages of micro four thirds is not only can their lenses be smaller and lighter, like this is a $7,500 lens. To get an equivalent lens in a Canon or Sony full frame body would be $12,000, maybe $15,000 or $16,000, depending on what you got. So there's that. All of their lenses are lighter, smaller, and less expensive. But the biggest advantage that micro four thirds has for things is for wildlife, because you have a crop factor of 2 times. So this is a 150 to 400mm lens on a full frame camera. On a micro four thirds camera, it's actually a 300mm to 800mm lens, which is spectacular when you're out trying to capture shots of birds or wildlife or anything that's far off and you want to get, obviously punch way in there. And the cool thing about this lens is it has a built-in 1.25x teleconverter too. And I'm not doing the calculations in my head, but I think that pushes it out to around 1,000, right? That puts, 1,000 millimeters. This is a 1,000mm lens, and it's not that big, and well, it's big, but it's not that heavy. And I mean, honestly, like a lot of that, the size of this is the lens hood. Like that is a big lens hood. I had it on because I was out in the rain, or I've been out in the rain, and it helps to keep it, the rain off the elements. Another advantage for micro four thirds is you can do a lot more with macro because you have a deeper depth of field. Now, I don't have any of the actual macro lenses with me, but this lens has a fairly close focus distance. Aside from any preconceived notions I had about micro four thirds, how is the image quality? In photos, it's really good. I mean, you get these beautiful 20 megapixel stills that are really nice. They're really detailed. They've got beautiful colors. Paired with the autofocus that OM has put in this system, they're incredibly good for wildlife and even really fast wildlife like pikas. So I've been up here looking for pikas for about 2 hours now, just waiting. Yes, I know this is a super red jacket. I should be wearing it, but they're generally okay up here. Anyway, I finally, oh, there he is. Oh yeah. Nice. The hard part about these guys is they're super fast. I mean, they move like lightning speed as they go out and collect stuff and kind of check stuff out. So they're really hard to capture. And I did get some video. 4K 60 is okay. I mean, he was staying nice and still for me. It's one place where I wish I had 4K 120 to be able to capture the speed of these little guys because they move like lightning. But subject detection works great. Locked right onto it, captured it perfectly. These things are super fun to come out and photograph and film because they're so active in the summer, storing food away for the winter, and they're just really cute. This is a good instance where Pro Capture comes into play really well because you never know when they're going to just bolt. So having those few pictures kind of buffering is really helpful. Aside from chasing around wildlife, you might be thinking that there's a limiting factor for landscape photography. And on the one hand, you would be right. Like 20 megapixels, although I shot a lot of landscape photography on 24 megapixels for years, 20 megapixels might not be a lot for landscapes. But OM has put in here this high-res mode that gives you these really nice, up to 80 megapixel photos that are incredible. Essentially, it's pixel shift technology, and they look really good. Look at the detail in these two photos. Here's the regular 20 megapixel still, and here is the 80 megapixel high-res image that not only gives you the high-res image, but it also gives you the raw files. So if you want to work with them yourself in post, you can. Now, it takes a minute for it to process, so you really only can use the high resolution in a static scene. You can't use it when there's anything in motion in the scene, but it does do it pretty fast. And honestly, you can even do it handheld. You can't get quite as large of high resolution when you're shooting a handheld, but you can get really high resolution photos out of this camera, which is one of the things I would have counted against it, is that it's not that high resolution on the sensor. But then when you count that high resolution setup in, it really makes a lot less difference. When it comes to photos, especially if you're wanting to jump into wildlife, birding especially, but pretty much any sort of wildlife photography, this Micro Four Thirds OM1 Mark II might be one of the best ways to jump into that, because even if you buy the camera body and the most expensive lens they make, that 150 to 400 millimeter that I've been using in this video quite a bit, you're still going to be right about $10,000 or less if you find them on sale. And that's an incredible performance package for some really top-end, high-performance gear. One of the cool things that OM has put in their cameras in the OM1 Mark II is a bunch of computational photography stuff. One of those things is live ND filters, and another one is graduated ND filters, which is super useful for photography, especially when you have something in motion behind me like here. But graduated photography or graduated ND filters can be really useful for things like when you have a really bright sky, a really dark foreground. I've been trying some of those things out up here, and it really is impressive, the results you can get. So one of the things that OM says is that their camera is tested to be IP57 weatherproof, which is splash proof, it's dust sealed, all that kind of stuff. I'll put the exact specs, I don't remember exactly what they are. But I'm out here in Whittier, Alaska today, just walking around, hopefully looking for some wildlife, which has been a little hard to find today. Everything else doesn't seem to want to be out in the rain. I will say the camera is holding up extremely well. I mean, it's not a downpour, but knowing that they actually publish the specs of that it's IP57 rated, where a lot of cameras will say, our camera is weather sealed or dust resistant or weather resistant or moisture resistant, this actually has a rating. Then we come to video quality. And while this camera does shoot really nice 4K up to 60 frames a second in 10-bit 420, you can get some really nice log footage out of this. I would not film the 8-bit footage. I don't even have samples because I didn't even bother with it. But the 10-bit footage looks really good. The 4K looks great. And the autofocus for all of the subjects that are programmed into this works just like it does in photo mode. So you can get great photos of pikas or whatever else you might be out there shooting. And when it comes to switching between photo and video, you actually don't even have to switch on your mode dial here. You can be in photo mode and then just hit the video record button, which you do have to assign to be video recording, otherwise it goes to a high-res shot. but I assigned this to be video record. So I could be taking photos and then hit the video record button. It switches to 4K, 60 or whatever you have set up for video, starts recording, and then as soon as you stop recording, it switches back to photo mode. One thing I will say too is that in testing the autofocus, I mean, you can adjust the speeds that you want it to operate at, but it is fast and it is accurate. They are not messing around when it comes to autofocus, and especially if you have your subject detection settings set correctly, it is incredibly good, incredibly fast and accurate. And even with all of that, there is still more technology, more stuff built into this that I didn't have the chance to test out yet. Like you can do focus stacking, you can do HDR shooting, you can do multiple exposures, all of which is super useful depending on the type of photography you do. I just haven't had a chance to really test it yet. But the amount of stuff that you can do in this camera is really impressive. Now that I've got to send this camera back, I'm honestly a little bit sad to see it go. I don't have a need or a budget to buy one right now, but if I was picking up a second body that was, say, just straight up for photos, and I wanted less expensive lenses that were lighter weight to carry with me into places like this, this would absolutely be in a top spot of consideration for me because of how easy it's been to use, how fantastic the performance has been, and just how small and lightweight the whole system is. So yes, I am sad and a little bit disappointed to see this go. I might see if I can work with them on a trip I have coming up to above the Arctic Circle, up to Dead Horse, as far north as you can drive in the state of Alaska, and see if they'll let me borrow it again. But now I would love to hear from you. Have you used an OM1 Mark II or Olympus cameras in the past? I had not, and I was blown away by the performance. Next, you're gonna wanna watch this video right here. I'll see you over there. As always, if you have questions, ask me in the comments below or join my live stream, which happens most Wednesday nights at 4 p.m. Alaska time, 8 p.m. Eastern, where we can have more of a conversation. I can answer questions that maybe I didn't get to in this video. I'll see you again soon in the next one. Cheers.